The Invaders. It was by the award-winning author John Flanagan. He did the Ranger's Apprentice series. This book's a fantasy book. And my choice for the Newbery Medal. It's got great writing, perfect for kids. It's from grades 4 to 8, depending on their reading skills. The other two books, which I'd say are more runners-up, are more towards the drama area. This one's Small as an Elephant, by Jennifer Richard Jacobson. And basically, a kid's mom leaves him at a park, and he has to find his way in the world. Well, it's a good coming-of-age book. Look for avid readers, especially serious ones, even at a young age. It's a definite runner-up, I'd say. And finally is this one, which is juvenile fiction as well as the other two. And a drama called Child of the Mountain. It's about a young girl whose family dies and she goes to live with her uncle and aunt and learn to deal with the hardships through life. It's basically a good all-around read, coming of age. It meets all the criteria just like the other two books. But all in all, I'd say this is the better pick because it's also the brother to the Ranger's Apprentice series. How's that?
Some people say that Newbery doesn't often pick fantasy genre books. Why do you think that this book will be? What makes this book an exception?
It's sort of like reading about the Crusades. It's not totally fantasy, but it has that same feel of realism.
Okay, so you get some like history lessons in it.
Yeah, even the descriptions of the armor, the weaponry, the basic story plot, but it has a sense of realism to it.
How's the... It's Alyssa Watson, and I read 3 books. I read The Center of Everything by Linda Urban, The Water Castle by Megan Fraser Blakemore, and Navigating Early. I've got digital copies, so I can't show you the covers. But The Center of Everything is a very short book about a girl whose grandmother has died, and it's the day of the town parade, and she has been awarded. She's been given an award to read her essay to the whole town, and she is hoping that when she's decided that she's not going to read the essay, and that when she gets up on stage, she's convinced, because of the wish she's made, that she's going to be able to hear her grandmother saying, giving her last message. And so that one's really kind of an emotional family drama, growing up story. And it's a good solid book, but it's a very unconventional writing style. The second book I read was The Water Castle by Blakemore. This is a bit more conventional in its writing style. It's a mystery. It's about a family who moves into this house they've inherited in Maine, and the main characters hope that the children hope that the water that is supposed to be like water that can cure every illness will be able to heal their father, who suffered a stroke and is unresponsive. And there's a lot of characters in this story, and that's both a strength and a weakness, and that they aren't as developed as they could be, but the character of the town is very developed, and the character of the town's history and the family's history is very developed.
2 minutes.
The third book I read was Navigating Early. It's about a boy in the wake of the Great War, when he's kind of recovering from the deaths he's experienced in his family, specifically his mother's, and he makes friends with this other boy at the boarding school who's recovering from his brother's death, and they go on this navigating trip into the woods, and his friend is telling these stories along the way, because he thinks that the number pi is one continuous story, and the story he tells and the adventure they have mirror each other very well. And that one is my pick for the Newbery Medal. They're all very excellently written books, but Navigating Early is more in line with what Newbery has picked in the past. It's a drama, it's historical.
We've had 5 minutes.
Okay, maybe I should start over. This book, Navigating Early, is for grades 6th through 8th grade, but I would suggest 7th and 8th grade. It's a very deep, well-rounded story and has a lot of moving themes about growing up and recovering from family death, and with some good history lessons thrown in. So that's my pick for the Newbery Medal.
By Jerry Spinelli, Emancipation Proclamation by Tanya Bolden, and Salt, A Story of Friendship in a Time of War by Helen Frost. I'm going to start off with Hokey Pokey by Jerry Spinelli. It's a fantasy book, and it starts off with a boy named Jack, and he lives in Hokey Pokey land. It's the land of fantasy. It's like the ultimate kid land, and kind of the start of the story is when Jack's bike gets stolen. He calls his bike Scramjet, and that's kind of like his status. Like everyone thinks he's really cool because he has that bike, and that's what it's named. And it gets stolen by a girl named Jubilee, and they're kind of like enemies. So that's really embarrassing to him, and that's kind of how it all starts, because he loses his bike, and he kind of starts realizing like he's growing out of things that he used to love as a kid, and that's the moral and the theme of the story, is like growing up and letting go of things like that. So I think that's a really good read for that age range. And something I didn't like about it was kind of hard to realize that Jack was actually a boy in it at first. It was kind of like, okay, is this guy a boy, or is he just another element of this fantasy land, the Hokey Pokey land? But overall, I think it's really good. I think it has a really relatable theme to that age range. Next, I'm going to talk about Emancipation Proclamation by Tanya Bolden, and this is a historical nonfiction, and it kind of like, it talks about the events and people and situations that led up to the Emancipation Proclamation. It talks a lot about President Lincoln and his deal, and it just goes into like the organizations and stuff that fought on the fight on liberty. And the narrative flow is a little confusing in it. It was kind of hard to tell what was going on, because the point of view went from like a declarative point of view to a we point of view. It was just kind of detached, but I really think it was good. I think it would have been better if the images were not as detracting from the text though. And next, I'm going to talk about Salt, A Story of Friendship in a Time of War. It's a historical novel, and it's written in verse, and it's set in Indiana during the War of 1812. It talks about two 12-year-old boys. One is a white settler, and the other is a Native American, a Miami Native American. And the two boys have a friendship, and they do typical 12-year-old boy things. But when the War of 1812 strikes out, because of their differences, they have to question their friendship. And they have like these influences and pressures that are on them when they have to decide that. And I think that's really good for kids in this age group, because I think they have to make those decisions too. And one thing I didn't like about the book was it's kind of gender biased. It's more towards boys than girls. But overall, I think the theme of the book was really relatable to both genders. And my pick for the Newbery Medal would be that one, The Salt, A Story of Friendship in a Time of War, because it has a very relatable storyline, like I said, but it also combines history with like real life scenarios. And I think it'd be a great read aloud book, because it allows for a lot of props and like bringing in things, and your students could do a lot of writing and like research and activities on that. And my name is Brittney Hilton, and these are the books I reviewed.